Today, I want to talk to you about Nekusar. Now, Nekusar is a pretty infamous, salty, popular, but also very unpopular commander in the EDH deck building space. A lot of people don't really like it because you're punishing for one of the best things that you can do in the game, which is drawing cards. Now, he's very similar to Xyrus, where Xyrus makes snakes and typically plays very similarly if you pair it with like an Impact Tremors. It's essentially the same exact deck, just in different colors, adding green instead. The difference between Xyrus and Nekusar is actively punishing every draw, whereas Xyrus is more like getting a bit of a passive benefit from every single draw. But anyways, that's all besides the point. Today we're talking about Nekusar and my take on Nekusar and why I think most people build him wrong. Now, when you typically see a normal Nekusar list, if you look at EDH Rec or anything like deck assistance resources, you'll see that a lot of people add the beginning of each upkeep, draw an additional card. Or at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent draws a card, right? Cards that allow your opponents to draw more cards than they normally should. Now, I don't think that's necessarily bad, right? But what happens when they just kill your commander? They're now drawing extra cards. Now, obviously, the argument dies to removal, or what happens if you don't have your commander, is kind of a moot point, right? That's kind of always the case. Most commander decks, if they don't have their commander, do not function nearly as well as if they did have their commander. However, I am kind of taking the approach of we want to set up just damage engines that punish your opponents from doing anything. Now, this is pretty common, right? More of a group slug approach to Nekusar rather than a draw hate approach to Nekusar, which is, still pretty dang good, right? You're able to still do a lot of stuff that Nekusar wants to do. But when you look at my list, you'll see another kind of subcategory in this Nekusar list. Now, keep in mind, this is a bracket 4 Nekusar list. There are tutors, there are game changers. We're trying to go all out. And I think it's because he's kind of the commander that I talked about previously, where he's kind of in that like neutral zone. You can't really play Nekusar at a lower power pod. You're just going to get hated out. But if you can play it at a bracket 4 pod, where other people are also doing some broken stuff, I think it's a lot more natural. Now, before we move on, I do want to shout out today's sponsor, Into the AM. They are a partner of this channel. I have a affiliate link that also helps you save 10% off if you use the code DriverMTG. DriverMTG, or I think it's MTG Driver. MTG Driver is the code that you can use to save 10% off. I just have their basic tee right here, and if I'm being honest, I'm kind of a basic tee kind of guy, right? They have a lot of graphic tees, they have a lot of other apparel. I think that's great. For me, I love the basic tee. It's super comfortable, it fits really well. Like, honestly, it's really good. I would not be using this code. I would not be promoting it to you guys if I didn't think it was pretty decent. So, thank you, Into the AM, for sponsoring this video as well as the entire channel. Let's continue, right? I think that Nekusar deserves to be at a bracket 4 level and only at a bracket 4 level. You're going to be playing up against a lot of other decks that are now winning through combo. You're playing a lot of decks that are a lot more control-y. They're usually going to have some more interaction. They're usually ready to do their game plan by the time turn 5 rolls around. And, 5 or past, somebody's trying to win at least once or twice throughout a game. So I think it's a lot more feasible there. Now, how do I approach Nekusar compared to other people? I think this is kind of my approach. Why would we allow our opponents to gain more resources so they can draw into more answers to our game plan, right? I love the color black in Magic the Gathering, and the reason why is because, yes, it's good at removal, but it's also great at resource denial. It is the best when it comes to resource denial. You could argue that white and green are great at stacks, which is similar to resource denial. I think that black is the best because you can directly take it out of their hands. They can't even play it. So what we actually have in this list is a lot, and I mean a lot, of discard synergy. We want to essentially suffocate the table by getting them down to 2 cards. And what is the only way that you can get out of that hole of being in 2 cards? It's drawing cards. Then we punish their draw. Does that make sense? I'm trying to have an approach of, you have no resources. The only way you can get back in is by gaining more resources, and you're going to get punished for doing so. We have engines in the deck like Nekusar. We also have Underworld Dreams. We also have, what is it here? Phyrexian Tyranny. We have all of these. We have all of these cards, right? These are all going to be great for whenever they do try to draw cards. Then it's also like Painful Quandary. Oh, you want to cast your spells? No, I don't think so. It's a 5-drop that typically you could play in replacement of Nekusar. If you've got Nekusar on the, like if you have 5 mana and it's turn 4, turn 5 maybe, I would rather cast Painful Quandary because it's a little bit of a sneaky pick, right? And you're definitely going to whittle their hand down a lot more. Then you can come in with the card draw punish with Nekusar, which is why I think it's a little bit better, right? Now, in terms of win conditions, right? Anything above 6 mana, right? We want, the only time that we're going to allow them to get cards is with a card like Forced Fruition. This is, you're going to cast a spell, you're going to take 7 damage, or even more, because we have other draw hate engines in the deck. You cast a spell, good luck. Good luck. You're going to be drawing way too many cards. Forced Fruition, I think, is really good. It's 6 mana, win the game, essentially. No opponent is really going to be able to deal with it too much. And if you're ever trying to fight on the stack with some of our counter spells or interaction that we have in here, you just get to draw a new hand, right? So it's pretty dang good. Now, the other time is with something like a Wheel of Fortune. Wheel of Fortune also gives our opponents those cards that we don't want them to have, right? But that's because they're taking damage in order to do so. They're like, if they choose the highest number, typically the number I see picked is 5. So they're at least taking 5 damage, if not even more, because they want to draw that extra cards because you've discarded their entire hand. We also have cards like Torment of Hailfire. That's going to be great. Let's say you get to 8 mana. I mean, Torment for 6 is already going to be pretty good because in the early game, you're going to be pressuring their life total quite a bit. So, you know, and then of course, Prosperity, similar to Forced Fruition, it's kind of a game ender. It's the only time you're really going to allow them to draw those cards. And same with Wheel and Deal. Same with Force Fruition, all these things. The only time we're giving them cards is if they're going to be drawing a lot of cards at once and typically taking lethal damage to do so. We don't want them to just be able to draw an extra hand for no reason. Right? Wheel of Fortune is going to deal 5 damage to them, probably minimum. And then they're going to take another 7 on top of that. That's 12 to the whole table. If the table's been doing anything and it's turn 6 or 7-ish, right? They're probably at a pretty decent life total where that's going to be a lot of damage. Where at that point, they don't really want to do any game actions because they're at 3 cards in hand and they're at 15 life. You know, or even 10 life or even, 7 life. Doesn't really matter, right? So how's our game plan really looking? Well, on turn 1, we've got an assortment of tutors. We even have a Wayfarer's Bauble. I actually really like Wayfarer's Bauble because if you're missing some cards in that 1-drop slot, you can just put a Wayfarer's Bauble or like a Mystic Remora or something like that. Some of these 1-drops that are just absolutely incredible for your deck. I think Wayfarer's Bauble is really good too because it guarantees you have something on turn 1 and turn 2 to play, and you can untap on turn 4 with 4 mana and usually a full hand because all you've done is crack the Wayfarer's Bauble, right? I think it's a pretty dang good card. It's seen as more of that budget, like, oh, you just put this in here if you got nothing else to do. I think it's a pretty dang good card. We don't have a ton of mana rocks, right? We have a good land base. We've got 38 lands with a lot of dual lands, a lot of shock lands and surveil lands and, search lands and any of these like return to hand lands. Right, we got a lot of good stuff in here. But essentially, the main game plan is resource denial. So let's go into that. Right, we've got a lot of ETB trigger, discard 1 card. That's going to be good. If you play that on turn 2, right, they're all going to be going down to a card. They're probably at least like, let's say the average, they're going to be playing 2 to 3 cards. Like on turn 3, maybe. They've played 3, or 4 of their 7 initial cards. They've drawn 3 at that point. You make them discard a couple. They're down to maybe 4, maybe 5 cards. It's pretty dang good, right? You add another discard on top of that. Now they're at 4 cards. Oh, but I got to get to my turn, and I have to play a land, and I have to cast a spell. Now I'm at 2 cards. How do I get out of this, right? And that's when they really start feeling the heat of, I have to draw cards. Because I know if I don't draw cards right now, when Nekusar comes out, or when any of these damage engines come out, I'm screwed, right? So that's how I like to play Nekusar. Let's go into some of like the most notable cards. Gleeful Arsonist is great. I really like Gleeful Arsonist because a lot of people, they're going to be casting removal spells. They're going to be casting just really cheap spells in the early game. Sorry, that's the wrong card. Eidolon of Great Revel is for the cheap spells. Gleeful Arsonist and Magebane Lizards are great. They're just a bunch of passive damage. Nobody even thinks about it. Nobody even thinks about it, right? So they're just kind of going, oh yeah, I'll cast my spells. I gotta get ahead. Oh, it's 1 to 2 damage. Maybe 3 damage total from the Magebane. I cast 2 non-creatures. It's okay, right? Your early game ramp spells, just take 2. It's just 2 damage. It's not that big of a deal, right? It is a big deal. And a lot of these little tiny chips are going to add up. We want it to be the case, like turn 6 rolls around. Okay, well, now you're at like 20 health already. And we haven't even cast our commander yet. Because we have all these great engines like Shieldred, like Lord of Pain, like Solfim, right? We have all these great things that you don't really have a lot of health to, toss around, right? You want to cast these spells, okay? Well, we've got turn 1 Cataract Parasite into turn 2 Razorkin Needlehead. We don't even need to cast our commander now. We don't even need it, right? So a lot of these things, I think it's really good. The entire goal of the deck is just to play a damage engine or a discard outlet and just keep spamming that until they're like pretty dry on resources. It's like, yeah, maybe creatures will be good. Okay, just play Toxic Deluge, right? Now you got no board and no hand. Maybe you can cast your commander for 6. You got a 4-drop commander, it costs 6 now. Sorry. Now let's get to the main point, right? This is how I would personally play Nekusar. It's probably the rudest way you could play Nekusar. Most people, you play against Nekusar and you're like, dang, this damage is really annoying. Right? But you're drawing extra cards. We don't have any of those effects. Nekusar is the only effect that allows you to just consistently draw extra cards per turn. And that's it. The only others that we actively are giving our opponents cards, besides Nekusar, which he doesn't count because that's the whole strategy in itself, is Force Fruition, Wheel and Deal, Wheel of Misfortune, and Prosperity. That's it. Those are the only 4 cards that actively give our opponents extra cards in this entire deck. The rest are either punishing them for playing spells, discarding them cards, or punishing them for drawing cards. That's it. We then have a couple of tutors. We've got a lot of board wipes. Got a lot of ways of dealing with the entire board, so it's kind of hard for them to come back from it, right? It's low-key half and half an Enchantress deck too. We've got 17 enchantments because of the amount of board wipes that we run. Really, you want to run out like maybe 1 to 2 creatures max, right? You don't really want a lot of other stuff. Now, the reason I even highlight this deck is because it's interesting. I think it's very interesting. This kind of whole video has been a little bit of a ramble, right? It's definitely a different style from what you've normally seen from me on my channel. But I just think that Nekusar is a really interesting case of like, you could do it. You could play this commander. 100% you could. But should you? I think this is the best way to play Nekusar. Just like by the numbers, by the strategy, right? Take away their resources. The only way they can get back into the game is by drawing cards. You're not allowed to. Or casting spells. You're not allowed to. You have like 2 cards in your hand. One of them is going to draw you 3 cards. I'm going to take, 6 damage? Is that worth it? It's 3 cards worth 6 life. And my mana. I don't know. Is casting the spell worth the 2 to 3 damage I'm going to take? And then now I've got 1 card in hand. Oh, now I got to discard that. Oof. So you just got nothing at that point, right? I think this is the best way to play Nekusar, but I also think it's just an interesting case study of why you shouldn't probably play Nekusar. I think the social dynamics are kind of a little bit taken away. It's another reason why I think if you were to play it like this, or you were to play Nekusar in general, play it at bracket 4 pods. Play it at bracket 4 pods where you can expect other people to have sweepers, other people to have answers, other people to have... Shoot, I don't even care. I'm playing combo. I'm playing combo, and that combo doesn't draw any cards. Combo's an aristocrats combo, right? I'm playing a Hepatra Yawgmoth combo. Nobody plays that, but I used to. You're playing things like that. That could make sense, right? Also, that one does draw cards, so bad example. But you know what I'm saying. I think it only should exist at bracket 4, and even then, I don't know. Everyone's gonna hate you. It's just not fun to play against. It might be effective, right? It's not CDH because you're not breaking anything in the game. You're just playing fun, fair magic and burning the table down. It's just group slug, and nobody likes group slug. Nobody likes group slug. It's not fun to play against. And honestly, as a pilot, it's not fun to be. So I think that brings it to the brings this video to an end. Shout out into the AM, code MTG Driver at checkout, or go into the link in the description and you can get 10% off these basic tees. Look, if you like basic tees, let's say like black t-shirts, I've got a black version, I've got a dark gray, and I've got this, navy blue. If you like just basic t-shirts, you like this logo, and you want to get 10% off, that also supports me. I'm not very good at selling, right? But just trying to be super real with y'all. Anyways, thank you guys all so much. You can check out the Moxfield list in the description. Go ahead, go proxy it out. Maybe you have all these cards, in which case you're probably evil. You're probably already playing Nekusar. But go proxy out these cards. Go check it out. And let me know how many friends you lose. If you do even lose friends, maybe your friends actually like this. Maybe they enjoy the pain. Who knows? Anyways. Yeah, I'll see you.